So as you can see behind me, I'm finally making a video about the extruded aluminum sliding rack that we built. If you're looking for a really polished, fancy video, this is not it. I'm literally just making this video because I came up with the system and a few people were interested in it. It's super cheap, it's super quick. It's not a super refined system, but it gets the job done and is good space saving. So the video isn't going to be nothing fancy, just a quick breakdown of what we did to build this extruded aluminum sliding rack. All right, so the setup is really simple. Essentially, all we did was we took some 2x4s, mounted them lengthways, and then obviously hit them on the studs in multiple places just so that it could support a bunch of weight. We just had some long self-tapping bolts that we had adhere, so we just use these. Essentially, all you need to do is pre-drill a hole into here just so that it's easier to get through, and then essentially you are going to drill these bolts in. These ones are actually long enough that they went into the wall and the wood, but part of the point of this wood is also that you have a surface to screw into if you're not necessarily hitting studs. And then what we did here is we also put multiples together. So we have one that's sitting higher. My husband runs an extra large bike, so it needed to be high enough that the tires aren't touching the ground all the time or that it fits. And then one slightly lower that runs the length that way. And we just offset them slightly so that it's easier to kind of get a variance from the bikes being, as you can see here. So we have like high and then slightly lower and then much lower and then higher. And that allows you to kind of slide them and stack them up to save as much space. So it just gives you more options for setting the height of the bike. All right, so then you just buy your hooks. You can get this one from Home Depot. It's not ideal though because you have to grind off a piece on the back. And then when you hang it, you really have to angle it so it kind of hangs out and away. So can be not too bad for getting the bars away, but it's not ideal. The ones that we use are these Craftsman ones. We got them online from Amazon for $16 each. And the thing that I like is it comes in 2 different hook lengths. So again, for some of the smaller bikes like my dirt jumper and the kids' bikes, you can really get them hanging a lot lower than some of the other ones. And it just gives you more kind of like hanging heights so that you can really stagger the bars. Okay, so then if you want to put a bike up, as you can see, you just take it off the end here, you can slide it on, and then as you can see, they all just slide on and can move around. The only downside to the system that I've found so far is that with this pan head style screw or bolt into it, obviously without it being countersunk, it's not perfect in terms of when you slide it in front of it, it can hang up just a teeny bit depending where it is, so you just have to lift and go. It doesn't always hang up, as you can see, but every once in a while you can catch it. But basically I just move the hook away, lift up your bike, put it on, and then once I get it settled and kind of where I want, then you just gotta kind of lift a touch and then you can slide it underneath. And then again, with those bars staggered that much, then you can have them all kind of like pressed underneath. And then if I want to get this bike out, and there's one here, I can just lift and slide it. So pretty easy system. And if I want to get over to more of these bikes, again, not that hard for me to just lift and slide and get into the bikes that I need. Yeah, so there it is. Right now the bikes are still set up to be able to have some access to them, but essentially in about 5.5, maybe 6 feet, I can easily fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bikes. And I usually have my son's little Stasic bike hanging really low right in between those two. But they are spread out a little bit more than they normally would be. Right now, these 2 bikes here, I'm taking out weekly. So this one, the way the handlebars are set up, I can pull it out really easy over top of my kid's bike and have no issues getting it out. Same with this other bike, I can pull the handlebars up and over and they don't conflict with the lower ones, so I can easily get my 2 bikes out and they're still quite close together. And then my husband's bike, it would be able to get out pretty easy. I would just shift these last 2 bikes really quick and have no issues getting them out. But for about $120 in hooks, which we can also use with our van bed. Because the van bed, the rails are extruded aluminum, so we just hang them by the handlebars in the van. So we can repurpose those hooks in the van as well, but for about $120 in hooks, some extruded aluminum that we already had in our house, and maybe $20 worth of hardware, you have a sliding system that slides pretty decent, good enough for the cost. And even if you had to get some extruded aluminum, Amazon and Faztech for just like the few pieces that you would need, it's not going to cost a small fortune. But I'm happy with the system. Honestly, the only two like real kind of refinements would be potentially doing like a countersunk bolt next time or something. I don't actually find these hang up all that much on there, but you know, it's just one more thing that would smooth out the system. And then when these hooks are new, they don't always slide super easy. They're getting better. And then with weight, obviously they don't slide quite as smooth because it's just a metal on metal. But for how often they need to be moved, it's a great system. And it took our 8 bikes that used to have to be hanging by the tire, and it took up this whole kind of like 18-foot wall, to now being 6 feet. So I will call that a success.